Hi, and welcome to Decoding AQ, helping you to learn the tools, mindsets, and actions to thrive in an ever-changing world.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next episode of Decoding AQ. With me in my afternoon, in her morning, I have Tugba Yanaz. She's based in New York. She's a founder and a Fortune 500 executive leadership coach. So welcome.
Hi, Ross. Such a pleasure being here today with you.
I'm excited because Tugba brings a real diverse background. She was born in Turkey, grew up in Germany, and has been in New York for the last 7 years. She's the founder of Lead and Vision, a vision-based leadership coaching and consultancy firm. In fact, her vision-based coaching approach helps executives and emerging leaders to overcome their limiting beliefs and build inner confidence and future vision that fuels leaders every day. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Fuels us every day with passion and purpose. And it comes from a rich history of almost 2 decades at an organization called Flex, which is a manufacturing and supply chain business, where she was responsible as a VP for building 2 business units, pretty big as well, billion revenue, I think, in each in the automotive and consumer electronics industries. So I can't wait to get stuck in. And my first question for you, Tugba, is what inspired a shift from a VP role in account management and business development into coaching and leadership?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting journey, to say the least, and one that was definitely not planned, and I would say definitely evolved over time. So when I moved, so I spent the first 10 years of my career at Flex in Germany in the automotive sector. And I moved in 2016 to New York. I was offered to lead a new business unit that was struggling with growth. And I was ready for change. I love change. Change keeps me growing. My husband was excited about the opportunity too. So we both packed our stuff and moved within 3 months to New York. And my first inclination was, because I had built already a very successful business unit, that I could approach the new team in the new sector with the same approach like I was leading my automotive business. And I thought, I've done it already. And so let me apply the same playbook to this new environment. And what I have realized in the first 6 months was a lot of resistance and a lot of cultural clash. And I think it was multiple factors. Coming from a place of, oh, I know how to do this, instead of let me learn and be curious how this new environment works, what customers want, what are the key drivers of this team, what are core changes in both industries. I was aware of the changes, but I think I've underestimated the impact. And the second was on a personal level, coming from Germany, kind of the suburbs of Germany, where people are, very down to earth. I would say I probably grew up more on the introverted side, and then living in Manhattan and then leading a group of very strong characters was also a personal challenge for me. So that's when I have hired my first leadership coach. I didn't know about coaching before. I thought I had to work on my presentation skills. I hired a presentation trainer who ended up being a leadership coach. And we worked together for about 8 months, and that completely changed my life. Like, it changed my career trajectory, it changed the way how I look at the world. And I think the idea of coaching and the impact it had on me stuck with me for a long time, because it was almost like you had a world of, view of the world with a very limited, I would say, lens. And then through coaching, your lens really expanded by, on my end, probably 4x, 5x. And it really accelerated my growth. It accelerated the integration of my team, the go-to-market strategy we've developed, the clients we've onboarded, the growth we've really experienced in the business. And I think a lot of that is thanks to me investing in coaching and being proactive about that. And then I applied a lot of the learnings on my team and started coaching my team. And, we delivered amazing success stories and results in the following, I would say 3-4 years. But then what I've realized is, while I thought my passion was initiating products, launching cool, high-end new products to the world, I realized my passion pivoted towards initiating people and really investing in people and coaching and teaching people so that they can build amazing businesses. Because I believe that, business success is only the byproduct of extraordinary leadership. And in order to build extraordinary leaders, you have to initiate them. And so I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I said, I'm really curious about coaching. I don't know if I could do this full time. I joined the Georgetown University. I did a 1 year's transformational leadership coaching program. I just love the process. From the first minute on, I was like, oh my God, if I could do this till the end of my life and really do it on a organizational level, initiating leaders and people, but also initiating the right systems, the infrastructure to really create high-performing teams, I would be the happiest person. And so I founded my firm about 2.5 years ago. I did it on the side a little bit for about a year, 1.5. And last year, I pulled all my courage and left my...
And went for it.
Yep, and went for it, exactly.
It's interesting. You made me think... we teach a piece around jobs to be done. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the book and the theory, but just listening to your story of your first engagement with a coach, the job to be done was, oh, I've got a presentation, I want to improve that, I'll get some presentation skills as the job to be done. But the realization and the transformation that followed from that initiation was incredibly impactful for you. And I wonder how many people out there, how many leaders out there that maybe in a similar position, that really coaching hasn't touched their lives yet. And I think we're in the age of coaching. And maybe that's a really unique thought of how coaches position themselves, of what is the job to be done? Oh, I need to come in, I need to do transformation, I need to work on this, need to work on this. Maybe there's some simpler steps within that. How have you found it on the other side, then looking and engaging as an executive coach, focusing in on a particular niche, on leadership and trying to get the person and system? How have you gone from love it, trained it, side gig to full in? What were some of those sort of steps?
Yeah, I would say the big learning is whatever you think works within a corporation, like, you have a go-to-market strategy, you plan it out, you have steps A, B, C, D, E, and you follow an action plan, is probably the polar opposite in an entrepreneurship, because anything you believe is going to work isn't working, and anything you don't think is going to work works. So it's really, I think, giving yourself a little bit of grace and space to allow things to unfold naturally. I would say the benefit of being with Georgetown was that you have to coach executives in order to really receive your certificate. So you're almost forced from the beginning to find executives that are outside of your company that you need to really train your coaching skills. And I was lucky. I have coached 2 CEOs and 2 COOs of smaller firms, mainly European, 1 US based and 3 European firms. And luckily, even though they were my guinea pig, they really learned incredible skills. We worked a lot on overcoming limiting beliefs. We all have them, right? Hands down, even the best CEO has that. So when they overcome their limiting beliefs and build the level of confidence they need, it just creates a different energy around people. It just creates a different presence. And it's almost like they gain back the power that they have lost over time. And now they have the courage to do whatever they want to do for their organization. And so because their transformation was so powerful, it led me to word of mouth recommendations. So they recommended me to peers of them, or even invited me to come into their organization and lead their teams in a group coaching setting. So it a little bit was word of mouth, and the best marketing tool is success stories of your clients. So you better invest in really creating the best transformation so that your funnel builds up from that. And then other tools I have leveraged was, joining leadership communities. So like Chief or World 50 is another amazing community. I've been a long time member, and really getting out of your comfort zone, networking, but networking more in a, I would say, authentic and like deeper connecting way. So one way I leverage these communities is on Chief, especially leading meetups, basically serving your target audience with helpful tools, actionable insights, strategies, support, so that the trust builds over time, because coaching isn't a business you can just go in and start selling. It's deeply transformational, and it's incredibly intimate. And so you almost have to spend a certain time with a person before they can really hire you as a coach. And then the third tool I leverage is, at Georgetown, and I'm sure other institutions have that too. They have an alumni network where previous coaches who joined other cohorts leverage the larger community for larger projects. And so I got lucky with one or two boutique coaching consulting firms who leveraged me to go into companies and, support the integration of post-merger acquisitions and lead leadership assessments and facilitate change and make people more comfortable in the process of change. So yeah, those were three ways how it evolved, but none of it, like, I couldn't have planned any of it per my corporate way of thinking and leading, I would say.
I think it's interesting because you talked about, I've been there, I've developed a level of knowledge and expertise, I've got my playbook, what's next? To a coaching mind is much more about questions, inquisitive, understanding landscape, and then helping to, as you put it, navigate change, as people go through a variety of self-talk, whether that shows up as a limiting belief or a bias or a way, or as in your case, a playbook approach, something that worked before. And then at certain points in our lives, we ask ourselves some questions, sometimes with the help of others, with coaches or people close to us. And I think what's interesting is what I've seen in this world is a shift to being much more open to coaching, rather than, I need a problem and then I'll go and do it to solve it, rather than, no, I want to expand on performance. I don't necessarily need something to have gone wrong for me to then look at getting outside help and development along those sides. In terms of your own background, your own journey, we all have one, and that, I guess, has influenced your thinking, influenced how you approach, how you adapt, how you change. Just give us a little bit of thought of how that has influenced it, why you came up with even the title, Lead and Vision. What's the thinking behind that, and what sort of adaptions have you done along the way, even in the last couple of years, of figuring out this new chapter for you?
Yeah. I think adaptability, even though I haven't thought of the term adaptability in specific, but maybe adaptation to change has been really core in my entire life and my upbringing. It started with being an immigrant, coming from a Turkish family living in Germany. My parents are, first generation immigrants, which meant you always lived in two parallel realities, right? One, the one at home, which is, very ingrained in the Turkish culture, Turkish values, the language, even, speaking Turkish. And then as you go to kindergarten and school, you have another reality, is the German culture, speaking a different language, having different behaviors and norms to fit in, right, in your early ages. And so I think growing up in the two parallel realities was really a blessing for me, because it was very normal for me to change in between kind of communities, in between environments, etc. And so, and then, you know, there are true values and then there are shadow values. As I grew in my career, I always thought stability is a core value of mine. What I have realized over time is it's a shadow value, which means if stability is a core value of mine, why do I constantly seek change? Because that brings, like, that removes stability. And what I have realized is what made me strong in my corporate career is bringing structure into chaos. So, but once the structure is there and the stability is established, I'm ready to move on to the next challenge and kind of seek that change, because I guess intellectually that kind of drives me from an adaptability standpoint, like overcoming a new problem, overcoming a new challenge. And I think core to that is really my core value, which is growth. Growth, curiosity, and authenticity, which, you know, has been a big guiding principle in developing my career in leadership coaching. That's all you do. You help people grow. You help people become curious about themselves, curious about the world they're in, no less, so that they can develop new pathways, new neural pathways, so, and learn new skills, etc. So I think one concept that really had a big impact on me working with my coach was it was funny the way he asked. He said, so what do you want to become when you grow up? And I was like in the middle of my career and like doing all the things and, you know, leading teams, traveling, I don't know, 450,000 miles a year, like every year. And and for the first time did someone ask me, like, is this truly what you want? And if you could have the freedom, and, you know, we did a little bit of blue sky thinking, like limitless thinking, what would be the life you would envision? And so that's the idea of vision when it first entered my life of, oh yeah, like I can absolutely envision my life. And it doesn't have to be what I have believed for a long time and maybe organically grew into. Like, my vision can be completely different from what I have chosen so far. And so I took a little bit of a step back and kind of envisioned my dream life and thought, you know, what would be a life setup, environment, relationships, type of work, growth, like what are the things I need in my life to be fueled every single day with purpose and meaning. And when I have kind of created that vision, you know, using vision boards, doing visual meditations, etc., it just brought this new sense of energy within me where I was like, wow, like now I have a North Star. Now it isn't the quarterly objectives and KP. Of course, all of that is important, and the financial goals and outputs, etc. But there is a clear North Star of where I'm going. And it's not going to be an outcome of just coincidences or where life led me, but it's an intentional path where I want to go, and I would be totally happy and fulfilled and happy in the process of getting there. And so that's, you know, leadership was something that I knew, like, this is my niche. I want to focus on it. That's where I've spent majority of my career. And vision was the concept of if when we have a clear North Star of where we want to go, and that doesn't have to be a title or a specific company or a role, but like the way how I want to live my life when I'm 65 years old, 70 years old, in a way that I can be proud of myself and say, I'm ready to go and I have built a legacy that I'm really proud of. I have seen it over and over again with leaders. It just gives them a different sense of self-empowerment, and they still continue doing amazing jobs as executive CEOs, COOs, and they have something that they have intentionally chosen for themselves that also gives them a sense of purpose and meaning. Some start, you know, joining nonprofit boards and serve different communities. Others support their local communities, you know, organizations who are focused on children. Others invest in technologies where they want to make a big impact, like in biotech or health tech. And so it doesn't have to be, pivoting your career and living happily by the beach and not having to work ever. It's different for every person. And I think it's important that we ask ourselves what that is and give ourselves the opportunity to figure it out.
It's interesting because as we go through different phases of our lives where we have education and then, so what's your career guidance? What do you want to do? And at that point, you don't know much. You haven't experienced much. And you think, oh, well, I got a round of applause here, or I got a pat on the back there, or I got a particular letter for when I handed in some work there. So maybe I'll go here. And often then the development is, how do I hone that? How do I go deeper? Not necessarily broader. And I think at certain points in our lives, it might be stimulated by an external factor, a redundancy, a time factor, hit a certain age or a certain life point, that we go, is this really my vision? What is that? Am I living the vision of my parents? Am I living the vision of my culture? Am I living the vision of someone else? Or is it me? And I think what's fascinating to listen to your story is that sometimes we just don't know. We need to go back to, let's try a few things out. Let's have an explore. Let's be inquisitive, whether that's meditation or visions, or going and doing a few different things, volunteering here, doing stuff that's outside of what we've normally done, to go, not for me, or I'm interested. Let me do a little bit more from that. So I think that view of shaping a vision through multiple modalities and experiences is a very helpful one to give us that filter. So if the hierarchy of goal, if we have that, as you say, this North Star, this long term, we can be then, dancing our route to it of those things. And that's what I love about the concept of adaptability, is just understanding that we can shape both the environment and system. It also shapes us. And how do we play in that basis? So if we bring this into something that's really specific and a narrative right now, is we've come off the back of a few big environmental changes. So the pandemic was an environment piece that came in and suddenly changed how people approached and what they could do for work. Over this last weekend, we've just had a big shakeup in the banking industry, with Silicon Valley Bank having, its whole series of maybe unfortunate, unpredictable, series of events that's led to a particular situation now where it is affecting a whole ecosystem of innovation and startups. What are you seeing, and how are you seeing organizations that do it well of dealing with maybe some of these unforeseen, this comes in, market technology, GPT comes in, version 4 is being released this week, Silicon Valley Bank happened. When you see these big shifts, what are you seeing leaders who are doing well? What sort of things are they working on, and how do they prepare for that, Tugba?
Great question. So when I think of adaptability, I think of it in an organizational sense in 3 different dimensions. The top dimension, the first dimension, is really the leadership and the adaptability of the C-suite, right? How comfortable are they with change? How proactive are they about thinking about trends and foreseeing trends before they really happen? How well are they monitoring the signs of the economy and the different sources of information, and not like living in a bubble of, we have it all under control, we're amazing, but really being curious of like, there are opportunities and there are risks to our business, and we have to be equally or even more aware of the risks than we are about the opportunities, so we can prepare for a better future. The second layer is really the adaptability of the industry and the systems, right? What are the norms, requirements, quality expectations, and the ways how business is done within a specific sector, right? In automotive, there are certain certifications and audit rules, etc., which takes a long time to really build up, and it also takes a long time to change. So when you have a trend like digitization or access in your car to an infotainment system, where now a company like Apple or Google can even have access to your information, that's when a very rigid industry that used to control an environment very, very well now struggles to adapt and find their way, because there are so many influences that they're not familiar, because they thought for a very long time they knew it all. They had a playbook like I did. And now the playbook is obsolete and it needs to be rewritten, right? And the third layer is the adaptability of the employees, which is, to me, a consequence of the two top layers, right? How well leadership is preparing their team and changing their business to fit in an environment that is changing. And that basically trickles down to how well and how comfortable employees are within change and an environment that is constantly changing. So I think to take an example, for one of my existing clients or previous clients is proactiveness, definitely, right? Proactiveness on a leadership level, and really looking at human potential or their employees as human capital and not headcount expense. And I think as we think about the future, how, you know, AI is going to make certain jobs maybe more obsolete and open new jobs and opportunities, the companies who really thrive well in change are the ones who are proactively investing in their people, because they know ultimately it's the creativity, the problem-solving skills, the human-to-human interaction that is really accelerating their business, next to the technology and the core they have. So the best companies in, you know, my portfolio are those who know their core and are really honed into the core of their skills and capabilities. They have a subject matter expertise in a core technology. They serve in a specific market, but they go above and beyond the market, and they look at all the other macroeconomical drivers, right? If I am in the audio video sector, right, I am curious about how fast 5G is being expanded in a certain region, because that's going to accelerate my growth in that region, because it's going to help consumers to have a better user experience as they consume material, right? Not only I'm focusing on developing the next best platform of my product that's going to be more efficient, more cost effective, etc., but what else is happening in the world that's going to impact my business? I think being alert to change, not being afraid to change, but really using change as an opportunity and a change agent for accelerating growth. I think from a technology standpoint, that's one. The second is on the leadership development side. I think every single leader needs a leadership coach. Even coaches need coaches. So I personally invest in my coaching too. Like, I have a coach I work on, because at any given time, you know, we become comfortable when we do something for a certain period of time, for a year, we get comfortable in the things we do, and then we develop our blind spots. So becoming aware of your blind spots, biases, right? As we talk about diversity and inclusion, really making solving biases a priority within organizations. So companies now, with the hybrid or remote work, have, you know, a lot of tech companies have a bigger access to a pool of talent they didn't have before. They can hire in India, in China, and onboard them virtually, etc. And but then, like, do we understand the way how people are thinking in a different region, and what do I need to do as a leader to really understand and like overcome my biases, because we all have them, like hands down, every single person has biases. So really making diversity and inclusion a core priority and not something as nice to have. And what I'm seeing often is that companies struggle with the ROI. Like, they look at and ask themselves what the ROI is, and like, what is the risk of not investing? I think that's probably a bigger question, right? Limiting your ability to scale, limiting your ability to have access to all these different pools of people and leading them effectively and successfully for your global growth in business. And then I think the most successful companies really like systematically invest in their people. So I have several clients who bring me in to lead leadership skill building webinars and workshops. So every month I go in and we have a 2-3 hour workshop where we get together, learn new skills, and really adjust it to the needs of that specific organization and the change they're dealing with in a specific time. And I know, like, there's a lot of online content available today through LinkedIn Learning and YouTube, etc. While that all helps, I think what's really a big challenge in this hybrid or remote environment is employee engagement and the energy that people can create sitting in a room. And so far, I have seen the most successful companies doing it, a combination between DIY, you can learn it within your own time, and there is a structured curriculum where we will all come into a room and really create that energy that can really be a catalyst for change.
It's a constant challenge, isn't it, to continually learn and go through, oh no, I was done with that. Now I'm just doing a little few taps at the side because I'm at work and I just need to get a bit better at this or a bit better at this, to thinking, no, actually, that's my learning out loud. I've got to continually do. And, the challenge for many is just such appalling engagement. A lot of, as you said, loads of content, but it's single figure digits in percentage terms that actually complete or watch it all or finish any of those programs. So the challenge isn't necessarily the content, it's that not only the completion, but also its relevancy. It's a bit like education used to be, oh, I'll teach you that, and then some point in the future when you need it, you need to remember it, versus no, I'll do it in line with when I need it. If I want to do something, one of our team said, oh yeah, my weekend I replaced the sink at home. So I was on YouTube, I was looking at plumbing, I was doing all these things, and you do it at the point you need it. So I think in work, some of these challenges, particularly around people, coaching, learning, skills development, all of these things, is what is the actual curriculum and how quickly can it be developed in real time with the challenges that people are facing, relevant to them, relevant to their challenge. Oh, I'm facing overwhelmed from a diary, just got too much going on in there and I can never really, deal with that. So how do I just go back to basics? Even though I might have been in my career for 20 years, I've suddenly found myself overwhelmed from all of these different directions. So there can be this, challenge, I feel, around this continual fight for individuals' time between being productive, between learning, between reporting, between, oh, now I've got to innovate, or now I've got to be curious about the next thing. There's a lot of stuff to do. How do you deal with that, with all of the plethora of things that are around? What are some of the processes that you go through, that you're developing within your own skills, within your own coach, that is helping you evolve and create the version of your life that you're designing?
Yeah, great question. And I wouldn't say I haven't fully mastered it. It's always a work.
That's life, right? Isn't it? Continually having a crack at mastering. Yeah.
I can definitely say, a life of a corporate executive leader, which is very much defined by your calendar, your calls, your quarterly deliverables and objectives and KPIs and the team cadences. It comes with a specific structure that forces you to follow a cadence, and maybe sometimes too much structure that people struggle to be creative and be innovative, etc. Versus on an entrepreneurial journey, there's almost no structure unless you create the structure, right? And I think being in corporate for almost 18 years really served me well, of also anticipating and knowing there is going to be lack of structure, and it's going to depend on me putting the structure in place was really, really important. So I have, of course, my 5-year, 10-year goal of what I want to achieve, but that's so far out on a day-to-day level. Like, where do you focus your attention? And as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure a lot of my coach peers can relate to, there are so many things you can do. Do you focus on social media? Do you focus on writing? How do you build thought leadership? Do you do public speaking? Do you hone your coaching skills? It's like you can go into a million different directions. And for me, what really helps is having annual goals and also having quarterly goals. So I write myself a commitment letter for the next 90 days. these are the things I'm going to focus on, right? It's a blend between generating revenue, driving business development, investing in developing my skills and improving my skills further, investing in learning about anything and everything digital, right? I think that was probably one of the big differences coming from corporate, where that infrastructure is existing, to being more B2B, B2C now, learning the trends and tools of being in a digital world. So I try to prioritize. I have two verticals in my business. One is the B2B side, where I coach executives one-on-one, as well as going into their companies and facilitate workshops and have consulting projects. And the other part is the digital world of developing a platform that more people can access, without being time bound or location bound, and really delivering content that is highly actionable, insightful, and not only backed up by research, but also real world examples of this has worked in my career. I've seen this work multiple times. Here's my recommendation, how you approach things. So between the two verticals, I'm trying to focus. It depends on the waves of work. I would say if I have a big consulting project, of course, 2-3 weeks of a month will be spent into that. But then I always go back and developing the digital platform, continue to develop the digital platform. And I think the blend really helps. Having a portfolio of things really helps as an entrepreneur, because it removes this anxiety of dependency, right? Oh, I'm only dependent of my B2B clients. And if everyone starts reducing costs and, recession fears, etc., they will not invest in their people. So it's like giving yourself options and giving yourself a portfolio really helps to balance and also learn and be curious in whichever direction you grow. So the 90-day plan so far works really well. So I have goals for the next 90 days. And then I look back at my 90 days and I say, okay, what has worked really well? What do I need to stop doing going forward? What was absolute time? What has taken a lot of time without really bringing the value, like having some KPIs and goals of how do you measure your return on invested time and capital, etc. And then what do I need to start doing? What are things I haven't tried yet in this past quarter? And what are some new skills I can expose myself that can elevate my work? It's a mixture between numbers, timelines, and coaching questions to really constantly pivot and improve yourself.
It's interesting that we can be so creative when we have frameworks, constraints, and systems. Without them, actually, it's much harder to be creative. If I have a blank page, come up with ideas. Well, with what? What's your problem? Ideas for what? For dinner tonight, or for launching a new learning program? We need frameworks. We need some structure in order to be creative. And I know you've got a variety of different things, from your Detox, your calendar ebook, to all sorts of areas where you're looking at, you mentioned, taking conceptual things into practical ways in which it can have real transformational impact. And I'm not sure if you've come across it, but something that transformed my entrepreneurial life, and certainly within how we structure our businesses, is a framework called EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's based from a book by Gino Wickman called Traction. And it's brilliant. I think you'd love it because it works 10-year, 5-year, 1 year, 90 days. And we run that and have done in this business for the last 5 years from its start, of having, these are the rocks, these are the goals, these are the bits every 90 days, and they all feed up. And that gives you a bit of flexibility, but also structure around those. And I think the challenge and what you've recognized is often when you have two worlds trying to coexist. So you mentioned about growing up in a Turkish family with the culture, language, and background, and then operating in a German school and German work, to then being, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a coach, but I might be working inside corporate. So what's the structures, what's the challenges, what's their diary, what are they facing around their energy flow, reporting, KPIs, when yours is, and how do those two languages adapt to each other? How do you adapt to them and them adapt to you, and find that dance of intense moments of action, intense moments of being present, rather than trying to do all things in a vanilla way. And I think reading one of the pieces that you had in your book around this notion of balance, of work-life balance and of integration, I've long felt the same, that we need moments of high intensity when I'm in flow, I've got my energy and I'm all in, I'm all there. And then the same when I'm somewhere else, being all in and all there. And that served me well. And I think it serves wherever you are, whether you're corporate world, whether you're entrepreneurial world, or you're trying to find a way to collaborate together. In terms of the last couple of thoughts that I just want to touch on. So these leaders now that are going, okay, so I'm investing in coaching, I'm getting disciplined around my goal structure, I'm trying to practice scenario planning and foresight, I've got innovation running here for brand new things, I've got innovation running here for getting what our core is better. And maybe I'm just at this point of burnout, of exhaustion, of each of these things, because I care about it, I'm passionate about it, it's my thing, I love it, but I can't see what it's doing to my body until it's too late. And we've seen that a lot right now, of people, not that they're disconnected because they don't like it, they're so connected because they like it and they're passionate, and yet they're still just spent. How can they deal with something like that? Because I feel that from a lot of our research, a lot of things that people are going through this adaptation is exhaustion. I've questioned who I am, I'm finding out what that is, but making that transition. What are maybe some of the steps or things people could start, maybe some good questions, good reflective questions, or things that they could do to help them maybe rethink or reestablish some boundaries for them to be more effective?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's interesting that, I started my coaching journey in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. And the first challenges my executive clients were dealing with was exhaustion, burnout, lack of boundaries. I think that was a huge challenge, and it's still a huge challenge in a hybrid and remote world. Before, we woke up, we got ready, we had the drive to work where we could mentally prepare and process what is expecting us, and vice versa. When we drove home, we could kind of decompress and really be present by the time we were at home. So one thing I work with every executive is routines, and having healthy boundaries and routines, having a solid morning routine. It doesn't have to be power packed, this like jump into eyes and do this crazy sprint and come back and have this super healthy breakfast. Yes, all of that is helpful, but figuring out what your body and your mental capacity needs in the morning and integrating these things, whether it's movement is definitely important. So whether it's a morning walk or exercise, a healthy breakfast, and really creating those boundaries in your calendar, not only as an intention and say, like, I'm going to wake up tomorrow a little earlier and do this and that, but really that no one has access to your calendar before you're fully ready to operate at 9 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. or 8 a.m., whatever that time is for you. I found the 2 hours executives can take for themselves and split it between themselves and their families can really create wonders of not getting stressed, not looking at their phone the first thing when they wake up in the morning, right? Having been in manufacturing, my number one surprise every day was chaos in some factories, right? And so what does that do with me at 6 a.m. when I look at my phone? Like, it triggers our stress hormones immediately, right? Removing stress as much as you can in the morning hours where you have control over your actions, over your own actions, right? And then it's similarly an evening routine, right? If you're not active and really energized in the morning, can you do an exercise in the evening? Creating boundaries with your families. You know, a lot of executives are very stretched between being present for their teams, being present for the business, being present for their family, but having an agreement with their partners on taking some me time, right? I need a full Saturday for myself. I know it's a lot, but one Saturday a month, can I have that fully for myself and just go for a hike and like just create space in their mind so that they can create new ideas, they can realize new things, or they can realize just new desires they haven't been thinking about. And so, you know, speaking about the North Star, what are some things that they can really intentionally choose for the future? And then I think really cleaning up the calendar, detoxing your calendar with calls. We're so used to over Zooming and over Microsoft Teaming and Googling, right? Does everything need to be a call? Can it just be an email? Optimizing communication is one thing. I work a lot with executives. You know, when there are multiple projects, like new products that are being developed, does everyone need to be on a call to really learn what's happening? But can there be a weekly report that shows, you know, red, yellow, green, highlights, lowlights, key actions, call to action? This is what I need to be able to move forward. That's been one core tool that I had integrated in my leadership journey of every single critical project needs a report, and the report is replacing 10 calls in a week and hundreds of emails, because people stop panicking when they're informed and they're aware what's happening, and they're aware that someone is going to call them when they need something. They can relax and stop future tripping about all the things that can go wrong, right? Really structuring communications. And then I don't think anyone gets a badge of honor for not taking any vacation. So I think really prioritizing vacation time, and the time when you take it, be completely disconnected, right? Yeah. I think if there's one industry that is probably most involved in managing things and managing steps that all click into each other, is supply chain and manufacturing. And even those leaders can take time off, a week or 2 weeks in summer, and just be somewhere completely else, not look at their phone, and not constantly check emails, because that space creates new opportunities, creates new awarenesses, creates new desires that you don't allow within your very structured and very time
too much noise. Yeah.
Too much noise, exactly. Yeah.
Got two observations from what you said, and then a final framing question for you. So one observation where you were just talking there about vacation time and breaks. Early on in my own career, it would be, oh, you take a break after you've done the good job and you've done the work. Or when you're just at the point of, you know, fainting and broken, versus no, you take the time to then do the good work, and it works the other way around. So that was one mental flip that I had, and that changed my relationship with my own time and productivity. Was before something big was going on, I'd take the time off first so that I can then show up really well. The what was the second piece as you were talking that really resonated? Maybe it will come back to me. I'll ask you the question, Tugba. It's a question I ask everybody at the end, and it's in relation to curiosity and learning. And it was, when was the last time you did something for the first time, and what was it?
Oh my gosh, that takes me back to the very first initiation of my coaching desire. So one of the like big goals, or like, I wish I could do this type of thoughts, was surfing. And I'm a horrible surfer. But I while I was working with my coach, with my very first coach before I became a coach myself, I said one of the joy actions we've discussed was surfing. And, you know, he said, so when are you booking the first surfing class? And I pushed it away, like week by week. I'm so busy, I'm doing this and traveling, whatever. And then he said, we're not going to have any coaching sessions anymore until your surf class is done. And so that was a very clear like boundary on accountability. And so I booked my first surfing class. That was, gosh, like 5 years ago. And it really initiated this entire journey of wanting to become a coach, because one of the feedback I had from my surf instructor was, while I was trying to bring my surfboard into the ocean, I was like constantly like pushing against the waves and fighting. And then he said, why are you fighting against the waves? Like, you just have to jump on your surfboard and then it's gonna, you will flow. And that was such a great metaphor of where I was standing as a leader at that point in time, of really fighting against so many waves that were not worth fighting because it was a habitual thing. And I like, my way or highway, I have to push this through and do this and do that. And that metaphor of fighting against waves really stuck with me. Maybe you've seen my website. It's like all about waves and ocean. And so it became like my blueprint for really building my business and really, sometimes taking a step back and really asking myself, well, how can this be effortless? Like, does this really have to be hard? And how can this be effortless? Is a great book I read by the author who also has written Essentialism. Amazing book. I highly recommend it to anyone. And so it was really a big shift. I think that was a big mental shift of, instead of always doing the hard way, only because I can do it, to really taking a step back and choosing the effortless way, or really asking, is this really worth fighting for? So
we often link great results with hard work. Well,
Yes.
what if we could get great results with easy work? What if it was effortless? And I've been doing a lot of work around frequency. And if we think about waves in the physical form of, oh, I'm fighting against that wave, we can think about that in the quantum realm of frequency of our brain flow, frequency of our activity, to be, when am I in a high level of frequency of productivity, of output, and that energy flow? So practicing, essential routines to protect our frequency and flow. Are we fighting against something? Are we taking ourselves in and around that environment? It's just triggered my other thing when you were talking about reports and communication. What we've just started doing more of internally is using Loom. I don't know if you've used Loom or come across it, but instead of, oh, we need this meeting and I need to do this piece, and trying to coordinate, even in a small team over multiple time zones, everybody to be there is a bit of a pain in the ass. So we've gone and started to use Loom a lot more, little 2-minute clips, little 3-minute clips, 5-minute clips of the person going, here's the report, this is where it's at, this is what's going on. And that's actually getting read and there, rather than, oh, here's a report, I've done it, but nobody blooming reads them. And so we needed a meeting to make sure everybody did it. But Loom seemed to be a nice little way at the moment for us of a communication flow that can be a bit asynchronous. We can post that on, a few questions go on, and that has limited our meetings as well. All right, you mentioned your site. If people want to get in touch with you, how's best on LinkedIn, on your site? What's the best way they do that, Tugba?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, they can find me as Tugba Yanaz or Lead and Vision. So my firm has also a LinkedIn page, but Tugba Yanaz is probably the fastest way. And my website is www.leadandvision.com. So that's how they can find some time on my calendar and connect with me. And your last comment about Loom, I absolutely love Loom. I use it a lot in the feedback conversations with my coaching clients. Sometimes when we end a coaching session, there are still some thoughts that kind of come up. And so I record like a 3-minute Loom video and send it as a follow-up. And they really love it because it drives a lot of, it's like, it continues this relationship and the engagement instead of having it on a 2-dimensional paper with an email.
I'm sure there's other video recording apps out there, but it's a, it's a cool one that has certainly been great for us. It's been a real pleasure to get to know you more, Tugba, and to share some of your own journey and experience. And I look forward to following you and your impact of how you help people lead, create the visions that they want, and make their movement towards it. So thank you deeply.
Thank you so much, Ross. This was such a pleasure. Really a big fan of your offering, your book, and everything you teach on adaptability. And I think if there's one core skill that we all need in the next 10, 20 years is core adaptability for sure. So thank you for doing your work. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Do you have the level of adaptability to survive and thrive the rapid changes ahead? Has your resilience got more comeback than a yo-yo? Do you have the ability to unlearn in order to reskill, upskill and break through? Find out today and uncover your adaptability profile and score, your AQ. Visit AQai.io to gain your personalized report across 15 scientifically validated dimensions of adaptability. For a limited time, enter code PODCAST65 for a complimentary AQME assessment. AQai, transforming the way people, teams and organizations navigate change. Thank you for listening to this episode of Decoding AQ. Please make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast directory, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Please do leave a review and be sure to tune in next time for more insights from our amazing guests.